I now declare this 43rd meeting of the Public Accounts Committee of the House of Commons in order. Colleagues will know, I see all the hands, colleagues will know that we had planned to have our Auditor General with us today. You'll know from the email that I sent to you and the news release that he had a relatively minor medical emergency that needed to be dealt with, and he's going to make himself available. He believes he could be ready as early as Thursday, but that's, of course, at the pleasure of the committee. We have quite a bit of business in front of us. We have remnants of the 2011 fall report that are still, we postponed one in order to accommodate an F-35 meeting. We need to reschedule that one and get it back on track. And we have not yet priorized our chapters from the spring 2012 report, other than the F-35 Chapter 2, which, of course, we've been focusing on. So we need to work on that. We have a couple of outstanding motions in front of us. And the thing we need to do to decide right now is how we want to proceed. Again, I'm a little hesitant because after we lost the steering committee, the easy way to do this was lost. Now, I had fretted again over this notion of what I was going to do when all hands went up, and we're back into this, who gets to control the floor. I've got to tell you, in the absence of nobody doing anything and the government putting their hand up, it's all just the same to me. I've said this to you before. Twice I've asked for assistance. I've asked for it privately. I've asked publicly. Nobody's taken me up on it, so I'm still left here with this impossible situation. And in the absence of a clear rule, I'll let a couple of people speak, but I'm not going to take motions. Because I just want to give you an opportunity. But as I said to you before, it's an impossible situation. You all throw your hands up at once, and whoever gets the floor first, it has a bearing. You know, people watching may not see it, but we all know here that inside politics it matters a whole lot. My thinking is this at this point. With a clear majority, the government always maintains the ability to deny an opposition motion or to carry their own motion. The opposition by themselves cannot force this committee to do anything. They don't have the votes. And so with that in mind, with all other things being equal, given that this is an oversight committee whose sole purpose is to watch the books, hopefully in as nonpartisan a fashion as possible, then, and again, reiterating that since the government has built-in control 100%, no one could do anything without the agreement of the government. Conversely, the government can do anything they want, whether the opposition likes it or not, assuming they follow the usual rules of procedure. Therefore, to try to bring some kind of fairness, and again, for those who may disagree, I am willing to host a meeting, private or public, to talk about a different way to approach this. But in the absence of it, I am going to go to the official opposition, then I am going to go to the Liberals, and then I am going to go to the government. Now, hang on. I am going to listen to interventions, probably from the government, if they want to make a different argument, if they will. But bear in mind that just winning isn't good enough in terms of winning the floor. We don't have a process that's fair. So I'm trying to be as fair-minded as I can, recognizing the mandate of this committee and that ultimately we're accountable to the public, where the public accounts. So that's the way I'm going to proceed. I invite members to meet with me to talk about a different approach, but that's what I'm going to do. I will now take any interventions. I will not accept any motions during these interventions because my intent right now is to give the floor to the official opposition, at which time they would have the full rights of the floor. But right now, I'm going to give people an opportunity to give me a little input into that decision, particularly from the government, since they would likely have the greatest difficulty with this. So with that understanding, I'm willing to hear from Mr. Saxton.
Thank you, Chair. I just, first of all, like to point out that I've been on this committee for 3.5 years. My colleague, Mr. Cramp, has been on this committee a lot longer than that, as have you. And because of that, you know full well, Chair, that committee business, historically, traditionally, has always been done in camera. This is not just something that this committee has practiced. It's something that all committees have practiced, in fact. Therefore, this morning or yesterday when I received your agenda, which says committee business, televised, this is absolutely unprecedented. It is absolutely unusual for this committee, for any committee for that matter. And it's got nothing to do with openness or not being open, because we've exercised openness on many occasions on this committee, as you've seen recently. We've even gone against practice at times to be open. But this is just a matter of you're setting a very, very wrong precedent, in my opinion, and you're going down a very slippery slope, because this is committee business. If you want to change the rules of all committees, that's something that should be taken up perhaps at a different forum. But what you have done here, Chair, because it was your decision, is you are starting a precedent which has been totally goes counter and against anything that's ever happened in public accounts, to my knowledge, certainly in the 3.5 years that I've been on public accounts. And I'm sure that Mr. Cramp would also join me in saying that this is an unprecedented move. I understand where you're going, but I think it's a very slippery slope that you have decided to go down. I'd like to share my time with Mr. Cramp, and he, I'm sure, has a few things that he'd like to say on this subject as well.
Of course. Mr. Cramp, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Chair. With the greatest respect to the Chair, I do agree wholeheartedly with Mr. Saxon, as you would expect. And this isn't a question, quite frankly, of who goes first. I think we all understand the realities and the implications of such. But I take great umbrage with the Chair unilaterally making a decision that totally changes the direction the committees generally work with, as Mr. Saxon has stated. And quite frankly, to use the argument or the discussion point that, well, yeah, but the government has control because they have more members. Well, whether a government has more members or the opposition have more members, I've sat on the committee, obviously, on the other side of the coin. I've sat on the position where we have been the government and the opposition have had more members. It was reversed the other way. And the fact remains, so to arbitrarily just suggest, okay, that from this point, because the government has more members, they take the back seat all the time. Quite frankly, that is arbitrary. I do believe, and I honestly believe in my heart, it's an abuse of the Chair's privilege. It's an abuse of the Chair's responsibilities. I do see it as a direct partisan move, with the greatest respect to the Chair. And I can understand why the opposition wished to go that route, but I understand the discussions that take place amongst all the opposition. It's a clear-cut strategy, and it is unfortunate, because as we move through an event like this and the various subsequent examinations, this sets a precedent, quite frankly, that potentially, my concern is will be challenged through the House of Procedures. I don't know. As we move forward, I would hope that we would never get to that. But I suppose I can sum it up with a very, very simple word. I'm disappointed. I really, really am. I think this now takes obviously the politicization of this committee. It's now the Chair has, willingly or not, knowingly or not, and I'll try to be deliberately vague here out of consideration for my past history with the Chair, but this really leads us into an abuse of the work of the committee. We saw that once before in a previous Chair, and we've had some marvelous chairs. We really, really have, and no umbrage again towards this Chair, but we saw where all of a sudden it became a one-sided coin. And I do understand the dilemma that the Chair finds himself in with regard to having to pass judgment on whose hand is up first, kind of thing. And I understand there's an ongoing challenge to deal with that, and I do agree with the Chair that we should have a process. It would certainly take that off the shoulders of the Chair, but with the Chair's ruling on an interim way forward, quite frankly, until we come to that agreement, I think it is partisan, and I state that, once again, with respect. But to arbitrarily just put the government to the back of the bus, said that's the way it's going to be, you know, even if it were a rotation, even if there were other members, we saw what happened the last time. This is the process the opposition and the chair followed. Mr. Saxon's hand obviously was up first in the last meeting, and the chair arbitrarily ruled that no, the opposition parties are going to go ahead. And then Mr. Saxon was afforded the opportunity. Now we're just saying the same thing again, and what we're doing now, we're just we're building upon a wrong and making more wrongs. And the direction of the committee, I feel, has been hampered, and I would certainly hope that we can, in the very, very near future, find a way so that we can move out of this uncomfortable situation, because now we are politicizing this this committee. At the very least, moving forward, at least there should be and could be an alternate. One versus the other. This side, the government side, the opposition side, the government side. Whatever way we do move forward, but I think the chair sees where I'm going on this, but to just say, well, because you have the majority on the committee enough for, your concerns and rights aren't going to be respected, we'll just throw you at the back of the bus. I just, as I said, I'll close now with, I am disappointed, and I wish the chair would reconsider.
Okay, let me. Well, go ahead, Mr. Saxton. Get her all on the table.
I just wanted to add that I know the chair would like to be fair, and he says that he would like to be fair, and I take him at his word. You have had this dilemma for some time now, and last time you decided to choose the opposition first. So I think the only way to be fair now is to allow the government to go first, and you alternate until we come up with a better system. You alternate who goes first. I think that's the only way to be fair, and otherwise, like Mr. Cramp says, you're throwing us to the back of the bus, and you know that's not going to last. It's just totally unfair.
Okay, let me throw a couple of things out in response. First of all, let me deal with the last point first. In terms of an alternating, that was one of the suggestions I said. We can rotate who I go to first, but nobody took me up on that. And to offer that up as an alternative to a decision I had to make in the absence of any alternatives being offered up by anyone is patently unfair. And I'm open to the idea of alternating. Ideally, it would be nice if we could come to an agreement rather than the majority deciding what's going to be fair from their perspective only. Next, let me just say that the issue of this recognizing first and being in camera or public are two different things. The issue of who I see first is almost, not quite as big, but it plays a role even when we're in camera. Who's first and who gets a chance to command the floor, because when you have the floor, you have the right to make motions. And by making motions, you can command and control the floor. And by virtue of doing that, you de facto control the agenda. So it matters whether we're in camera or whether we're in public, who has the floor and who gets the floor. That's why we're always so scrupulous about taking a list of who speaks, trying to make sure we're accurate in the order, and doing the best we can to be fair with the time allocation. So that's a separate issue. The issue of what we're doing right now, what has happened is with every single F-35 meeting, I have had requests come to my office as the chair from media saying that we would like to be there for that meeting. We would like to record the entire, or broadcast or record the entire proceedings. May we have your permission to come in? And sometimes it's 3, 4, 5 of the Main Street TV media in particular, and they have all the equipment. So that means we would have all these crews walking around here while the committee's trying to do their business. So it's a lot easier, it seemed to me, for us, and surely a lot easier for the media, if we just agree to flip the switch and we throw the cameras on that are in here. I can't say to the media, no, you can't come because the committee members don't want you. And I'm not sure that there's any one of you here that would want to lead that charge, although you're welcome to. So I have two choices. I can allow the media to come in with their cameras and equipment and crews, or we can take advantage of the fact that we have installed the television cameras. And that's been my rule of thumb. There's been 1 or 2 occasions when the issue was so big that before the media even bothered to call, I looked to see if it was televised because it was just that obvious. I mean, some of those things are the discretion of the committee chair. But I've been particularly careful, tried to be, around the F-35 because it's so politically explosive. And we all know that substantive issues can morph into procedural issues real quick, and procedural issues can take over a meeting, as it's doing now. So, the issue of whether we're in camera or not, the other thing I want to mention is that at one of the previous meetings in the last few weeks, when we dealt with committee business, every one of us, I'm going to say to you, was expecting the government would move to go in camera. And it didn't happen. Everybody on the committee agreed to stay in public, and we did the entire committee planning. Most of it, I believe all of it, but certainly most of it was F-35. So who am I to presume what the will of this committee is when it's dealing with further organizing around the issue of the F-35 when the unanimous decision, by virtue of the absence of a motion to go in camera, was the decision of this committee? If I went into camera, someone could easily say, well, wait a minute, what gives you the right to unilaterally decide this one's going to be in camera when we as a committee chose by unanimous consent to do all that business in public? Who are you, Chair, to do that? So I'm ready to accept when I'm wrong. I'll take my lumps, and I make my mistakes like everybody else. But I want colleagues to know, the other thing I want to say is that I have not had one word, and you can put any religious document you want, I'll put hands all over anything. There's not been one discussion with any opposition about how the things are going to proceed and how there's going to be some kind of trap set for the government. That doesn't happen when I'm in the chair. Anytime you see me talking, and they can vouch, anytime you see me talking to the opposition members, it's about procedural things that are already known, or they're asking me a detail, no different than when Mr. Cramp or Mr. Saxton approaches me in the House also. So there's no deals. I'm not going to destroy my opportunity to try to continue to bring the respect that this committee needs. I'm not going to put that in jeopardy by playing monkey games, especially in a majority house where the government wins 10 times out of 10. It's far more important to me that this committee and my chairing be respected as being fair and nonpartisan as much as humanly possible in this arena, recognizing that I am a partisan. So I'm open to further thoughts, but that's how we got where we are. That's been my thinking as we moved forward. And I'm in the hands of the committee as always. Mr. McKay.
Thank you, Chair. As you know, I'm not a regular member of this committee. I'm substituting for Mr. Byrne, who I'm sure everyone will be pleased to know is recovering from pneumonia, but maybe not present for a while. And so I've not been privy to all of the machinations, shall we say, with respect to this committee and its setting of the agenda. Generally, the working, I don't disagree with Mr. Sexton's observation that most committee agenda setting is done in camera. I don't dispute that. That's been here 14 years, and that's generally true. It ceases to be in camera when there's a sense that there's an unfairness that has happened or may happen or could happen, and so the working presumption of being in camera, i.e. there's some give and take, i.e. everybody gets a little something, i.e. opposition parties get to direct some part of the agenda. All of that is, if you will, a working presumption of a steering committee. That presumption seems to have gone out the window here, and it appears to have gone out the window because of an enthusiasm, particularly on the part of the government, to not have the deliberations of the committee with respect to the F-35 any more public than it absolutely has to be. So, as a consequence, the deliberations with respect to the direction and agenda of this committee are at the opposition's desire in public and on television thus far. I just I just thought that there was an irony in the name of this standing committee. It is the Public Accounts Committee. Generally speaking, public should be preferenced over private, and because it is one of the very few opportunities members of the opposition have to actually ask real questions and potentially get real answers with respect to issues such as the F-35. So I think actually this entire dispute, because I'm here to move Mr. Burns' motion on the F-35, which I'm just flipping through it as, actual statement of operation requirements, full life cycle analysis, bid evaluation criteria. All of that sort of stuff is stuff that the public is interested in. And why there would be such a resistance that, if there is anything that is in a nature of a secretive aspect to any of this stuff that imperils national security in any way, I'm sure any witness will bring that to the clerk's or your attention, sir, and say that on this item within this item, that it can be that the committee should not be studying in public, and possibly no one outside of the Privy Council should be studying. But working on the presumption that a Public Accounts Committee is first and foremost public, my sense of it is that that motions and even this discussion needs to take place in public. That your ruling is correct. And I would say finally that this entire matter can be resolved in a heartbeat if, in fact, Mr. Saxton, on behalf of the government, simply allows the motions that the opposition wish to put forward to take place in public, and to votes to take place in public. It's pretty simple that way. So thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you, and I apologize, Monsieur Revignon. I should have gone to you first, as I outlined earlier, so my apologies. You now have the floor, sir.
That's okay. I guess I was listening very carefully to what my colleagues were saying on the other side, and to a certain extent, I'm sympathetic to what they were saying, provided that we're in an ideal situation. The reality is that this Public Accounts Committee is not functioning like a Public Accounts Committee did in the past. There's very little goodwill in order to proceed with the important oversight function that we have. The subcommittee, which could be the place where we would create some form of consensus around witnesses heard, and the agenda has been abolished and was put to an end by my Conservative colleagues. If we were in that ideal situation, then of course it would be normal to have our procedures to decide on the agenda and so forth in camera. The reality is that it's not, which begs the need to make public what the opposition is proposing, and to have the government or other members of the committee deliberate on this issue as well as share their opinion. I think Canadians, of course, have a right to know that there has been a request to hear from certain witnesses, and that request has been denied for whatever reasons. So I think I'd like to come back. I mean, obviously I sympathize with the chair's situation. I think it's untenable to play the gunsling approach to trying to get the floor. It's an unacceptable way of proceeding. And I think I speak for my other opposition colleagues that we're clearly willing to speak with the Conservatives, with the government side, to talk about how we could get out of this impasse, maybe reconstituting a subcommittee so that we could go forward with a more consensus-based approach with regards to the length of debates and with regards to the witnesses that we want to hear from. I mean, I think Canadians have a right to know that we there are people around the table that, want to hear from people like the Minister, Peter MacKay, on F-35s, Julian Fantino, obviously the Associate Minister, the Public Works Minister. I think the debate was such in the last few weeks, it begs that we bring these people forward. We're far more uncertain as to what went on than before, and the only way to clarify this for Canadians is to continue this debate and call the proper witnesses. I also would like to add that procedure can be used as a weapon. It can be used as a weapon to silence debate, and this government has a poor record since May 2nd in that regard, in using procedural process in order to close debate. So I forgot to mention that I should probably share my time as Mr. Saxon did with Mr. Cramp with Mr. Allen.
Very well. Mr. Allen?
Thank you, Chair. Let me first start by, since I returned to this committee last fall, talk about this idea how quickly one gets their hand up and whether one competes or not. If you go back and look at the record, you will see that the government side probably won that race 80% of the time, if not more, because it became very apparent to me as the lead at that time of the opposition side that it was a futile attempt to outrace Mr. Saxon for a couple of reasons. One is I had 2 surgeries on my right shoulder many years ago, and it doesn't really work all that well, and he's much younger than me, and he's much faster. So I wouldn't have won the gunslinger race anyhow. And I say that somewhat facetiously, but I wouldn't have. It's kind of that funny. But I could have called the procedural piece and said, Chair, Mr. Saxon's hand was up before you gavelled the meeting to order. He's now out of order. You cannot get the attention of the chair before the chair is actually in the chair, which happens when he gavels the meeting to order. But I didn't pull that stunt because I felt, well, let's see if we can't work this out. And the reason we're at this point now, and I think Mr. Ravignon clearly pointed it out, there were issues with the steering committee. I do not lay the blame solely at the feet of the government for that, but there is a way that that needs to be resolved. The chair has asked for some form of intervention from us to try to figure this out, and we have not been helpful in resolving that. We need to do that on a go-forward basis. The Public Accounts Committee will not end at the end of the F-35 hearings. It will continue on till the end of this Parliament, and we need to find a way to make it work. But let me restate what I did state, I think, about a week and a half ago, about whether this side has ever approached the chair because he's in our caucus. And I stated unequivocally then, and I stand by it now, I have never, nor would I ever, nor do I intend to in the future, to approach the chair to try to help me get recognition at this committee. And I do that for 2 reasons. One, out of respect for the chair, regardless who the person is who sits in it. But let me personalize it. I have known this chair for, I would think, about 30 years. From a previous life, not when he was in government, but indeed when we belonged to the same union. And for those who have ever been in a union who understand what the hard stick is, if I even made an attempt, the hard stick would have come down on top of me and it wouldn't have felt very pleasurable. So I understand that there's no reason to do that, and the chair wouldn't tolerate it. So let me state that clearly for the public to know that it has never happened from this side, from New Democrats on the opposition side, and nor do we intend to do that on a go-forward basis. Clearly, there is an issue around the F-35. It's a very public issue. The government acquiesced and decided to stay in public. If folks had been betting, the last time we stayed in public on a witness list, the bets were that you would not stay in public, that you wanted to go on camera. And so all of those who betted that way would have lost. And now you want to go on camera now, even though we still have that to discuss. That sets a dilemma. The other side of it is clearly in the G8, where we wrote as an opposition a major dissenting report, we clearly had issues. So you can say our trepidation about going into camera when our experiences are not joyous when it comes to the government's will to decide to go forward or not go forward. We wanted to go forward, you didn't. So we did not. So you can see how we on this side are looking at you and saying, well, we still wish to go forward. What happens if we go in camera and you decide you do not? You extended the olive branch at the beginning. I would suggest that you continue to extend it at least on the F-35 to deal with this, to get it back on the rails as far as the witness list and what we intend to do with that piece, since you started down that road. The other pieces, I think you need to decide where you want to go as far as how you do that as a process. I think if we end up having a sense of we're actually back on track working as a whole committee, we may find indeed that we're able to continue forward in a manner where there's trust on both sides, and we actually start working on some reports where perhaps there is less political fire, because there's a lot at this one, and I understand that, and that committee will get back into a kind of a regular routine. But I would point out one statistic to the folks in this committee, and I said it once before, I think, but maybe not at the committee. When you check the chart of who has the most in-camera meetings, it's us. Now, part of that's by necessity because we write a lot of reports. So it's not just because we're secretive. And so somehow we have to find a way to be less apparently secretive, albeit it's hard. I don't suggest it's not. And so I would, look to my colleagues to try to help that process. And I would hope that you would consider to continue on the vein, at least for the F-35, and to show the willingness to actually get to the bottom of what had happened with this particular project and do it in a public manner. I think it would suit the government better, but then again, that's their decision to make, that you keep it open rather than closed, for all the apparent reasons of the political pieces that fall into that. Because regardless of what you do behind closed doors, will anybody believe you? I don't know. At this point, the believability around the F-35 file, and it's just that particular file that this, the committee is looking at, I don't think you got a lot of trust on that one, folks. And so I would suggest you try and keep it open. But at the end of the day, I recognize the reality of 7 versus 4 and how that vote can turn out. But I offer that as my comments, and we'll see where it takes us. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. I have first-time speakers and second-time. I'll complete the first-time speakers. Mr. Shipley, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And first of all, you've sort of laid out a couple of things. One is, the issue around first to speak, and the second one is you made it. I have to tell you, as colleagues, I wasn't sure what was happening when I read the report or the agenda that said televised. Mr. Chair, I think your words, well, it's just easier to flip the switch and have the televisions on. I would never, and I don't think we should ever be concerned about the work that the media goes through to come to a public meeting. That's their job. If they should choose to come, then they come. They're public. They can do that in any of the meetings. In fact, we're on international trade. If they choose to come to those public meetings, they can bring all their equipment, and that's what they do. I am concerned that we've taken a significant step to televise something that has been in my history on this committee. Mr. Chair, when the AG, the Auditor General, comes, when we do estimates and the ministers come, pretty much when we televise, we know that ahead, or we're told ahead. In this particular case, it came out in the agenda. So I would say that it is, has been mentioned, I think a direction in which we as a committee are going down the wrong road on, when we can just say, well, we'll just flip the switch and we'll televise the whole thing, taking away from the responsibility, I think, of the media to come and report public meetings. All of the dialogue in an open public is in the blues for people to read and for anyone to read. I sat on this committee also when we were in a minority government. And I'm not sure where the big surprise is. In the committees that I've been on over my 6 years here, committee business has always been done in camera. I mean, we made some exceptions the other day, and obviously it may or may not have been the right ones, but we decided that we would just move ahead with some committee business. And here we are now going back to what has been the standard and the norm for committees when you sit down, because you're talking sometimes the finances, the organizational, of who's going to come, when they're going to come, who's going to be whenever. I think that's a bit like the business meeting at home with your own business. That is what we should be doing. So when we televise that, Mr. Ravenel had said, you know, this committee has always functioned well. I can tell you, Mr. Ravenel, before you got on it, in the last session, it did not function well. It has functioned well when we had chairs make a difference in how it's running. And sir, I'm not taking a shot, but don't let yourself get in the position where the last chair of this, and in fact I think you agreed with us, was making arbitrary decisions, making arbitrary comments without consulting and following with the committee. So you cannot have someone making unilateral decisions, and that's what happens when we get into this predicament. Wednesday night, obviously, has been asked by Parliament to have a 4-hour discussion and debate with the Department of National Defence, and as you mentioned, it'd be nice to have the Minister Peter MacKay, Mr. Fantino, maybe Chris Anders, Alexander, slip in my mind. All those folks are going to be there. It's going to be a great opportunity for all of us, quite honestly, to ask questions, and for people that wouldn't normally get the opportunity here, their opportunity to take that 4 hours. And so I think it is going to be a process that we get an opportunity to follow. And as Mr. Allen said, maybe we can be less secretive. I agree that much of that is because of the number of reports. If you go back the number of reports that we've been able to run through this committee, in fact, we're almost caught up. We're looking at an agenda here of the reports of the Auditor General, where there's 6 of them, where we've been asked to now start to prioritize. Those are always, those are committee business. That's what we will do, is decide of how we're going to move forward with that. And in the other ones, the other reason that we're in camera is to follow the routine that has been there, from my experience, is that of committee business. So, Mr. Chair, I guess in a word of encouragement to you, and also a little bit of critical words, I must say, that I would ask that we would start to move back to the committee business in camera as it is traditionally being done. And let's move ahead so we can get not only the F-35 one resolved, but then start to put together the agenda that will take us forward for the 2012 spring reports. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And just before I go on, so that we don't go too far off track, again, I want to emphasize there are 2 separate issues. I can see how the government, I mean, I'm giving you some due here. I can see how the government would look at it and go, televised, in public committee business. That's not the way we normally do things. And so to leap to the conclusion that there's something untoward going on, I can at least see the pieces that you pulled together to get there. But I need to emphasize, and I ask especially the government members to listen. In the past, it was debatable whether we were going in camera or not. That's what the race was about. Originally, the race was about, could the government get the floor right after I gavelled the meeting, because they wanted to place an in-camera motion, and we all know that politically, the quicker you do that, the better. But it does suggest that we do not have a rule that every committee business is automatically in camera. And given that it's the public accounts, it seems that to me the default position would be that we are in public unless and until a motion is moved to go in camera. No one's ever questioned that when we've done that, where we've been in an open public session and there's a race to get the floor, and when the government does get the floor, they move to go into camera. There's no debate on that motion. We have a vote. The government wins. We clear the room, and then we do our business. But it was debatable as to whether or not we needed a motion. We do not have a rule that all committee business is automatically done in camera. The only thing that stands close to that, where there's no exceptions, is report writing. And that we do in camera for obvious reasons, and that serves us and the public very well, particularly when we can find unanimity around a report, because that has impact. And the second thing is, on the cameras, if you take what I just said and remove the TV question, the only difference here is that the media, like every other meeting we've had on the F-35, advised me that they wanted to cover this meeting. And therefore, they would have been bringing in their crews. And like every other F-35 meeting up until now, I've said at that point, and only at that point, there have been a few exceptions in the past, and nobody from the government questioned me when I made those decisions, when it was so obvious that it needed to be televised. Just so obvious. But not very often. I don't do that. It's not my role. But when the media says we want to come, and we're going to have these crews here, then in the past I have said, just flip the switch. And as you can see, that's what we're doing now. So the only difference on that piece of paper is it says the word televised, and that's just a courtesy so that members can know to wear their prettiest ties, that you're going to be on TV. Other than that, nothing is different about the procedure. Had I not had the cameras in there and had it not put it on the notice paper of the call of this meeting, then we would have had those very same camera crews that are interested who would be here and doing what they do. And it seems to me that all we're doing is making life difficult if we say to them, no, we're not going to flip the switch. We're not going to use the built-in camera system to cover committees in this room, which is what it's designed for. No, we're going to keep those turned off, and we're going to force the media to come in here and drag their portable cameras and drag their crews and do the whole thing. And we've seen what that looks like in here. So they are two separate issues, and I would urge the government members in particular to please respect and acknowledge that they're two different things, that I did not, by virtue of what you received, make a unilateral decision that we're going to do this in public and we're going to have the glare of the cameras whether the government likes it or not. That's not where we are, and that's not what I did. I've explained myself on the TV side. I've explained myself on the opening of this meeting, and I remain accountable for all my actions and all my decisions. Mr. Hayes, you now have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to speak to the steering committee first, and Mr. Ravigneau's comment that it was the Conservative colleagues that put an end to that committee. We may have put an end to it by vote, but it was the makeup of the committee and the lack of productivity of the committee that put an end to the committee. That committee was a complete waste of time. It was non-functional. It was non-functional. And I would suggest that the way we're doing it now has been more functional than the subcommittee, although only marginally so. Although only marginally so. I would also like to state that I'm not impressed, Mr. Chair, with the fact that you would choose not to accept motions, that once again you would choose to first give the floor to the opposition, which is what you did before, and that's okay. I guess that's your prerogative. But what I would like to know is, what is the authority of the chair? Do we have something in writing that speaks to the job description of the chair and the authority of the chair?
Oh, come on.
No, I'm quite serious, Mr.
Nonsense.
Chair. I'm quite serious, Mr. Chair.
Now, that's what worries me.
Because, well, the reason being, you speak to being not partisan. A chair is to run a meeting and to chair a meeting. I accept that. But on several occasions, you have had last say to witnesses, and you have had your say in an extremely partisan way to witnesses that have been up there. And we can check the record on that, and you have lambasted some witnesses as your last say as a chair. And quite frankly, I don't feel that that's appropriate. That being said, back to Mr. Allen's point, nobody has accused anybody of approaching the chair. I think there was a statement made on our side last time that the meeting was prearranged. And I think what that statement meant was that when Mr. Christopherson came in, he automatically selected the opposition to speak first. And so it was not necessarily prearranged with the opposition, it was prearranged in Mr. Christopherson's mind, which I guess is his prerogative as chair. But that's, I think, where that statement meant. Nobody has accused anybody of any type of collaboration, and I don't believe that's happened. And I do have the respect of you, Mr. Christopherson. You do a really good job of chair, and I like you as an individual. I'm just not pleased with the way things have happened today. So the issue seems to be one of who gets the floor first. I think that's really what it boils down to. And then once we determine that, maybe we can move forward. So there's been some discussion about let's do it in a rotating manner. Maybe that's the way to do it. I don't know. Do we need a motion in order for that to happen? That we do at each meeting in a rotating basis in terms of who gets the floor first? I don't really have the answer. But those are my comments, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McKay spoke once already, so he's on the secondary list. So are there any other first-time speakers? Mr. Dreeshen, you have the floor, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. There's just a couple of things that I wanted to bring up as we speak about the rotational basis. And, you know, I guess if you're looking at it and you say, okay, well, we'll rotationally set it up so that if there happens to be committee business, then automatically the government side would get it. If it happens to be anything else, then the opposition side would get it, and I'm sure then we would start to see another conflict that would take place there. I guess, and as well, you know, this new ruling that you have for today that you won't take any motions, but yet we will talk this out, and that's great that we're doing that. But then we listen to the commentary from the other side, and everything that they would have typically put into a motion that they would have then presented here with the political spin and so on that they have to it, then gets put on the table. You know, they speak about the F-35s and concerns and issues, yet we've been entirely open with everything that has taken place in here. But nevertheless, they did get that opportunity to take another stab at it here in public. Getting back to the discussion about the subcommittees, it lost its way when some people reneged on deals that they had. That's something that we should talk about in camera at some point in time, not here. And so there's a lot of things that make it necessary for us to be able to discuss the operational aspects of the committee that we have. So those are some of the issues that I have. You know, again, back to the last meeting, Mr. Byrne hadn't even put up his hand, but he was recognized. And of course, the question might be, well, I thought I saw him put up his hand. You know, these are the kinds of things that cause issue with those of us that have come here to try to make this particular committee work as best as it possibly can. So when we see those sorts of things, that's when we get the extra frustration that comes along. So I leave it at that.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Dreeshen. May I just comment again, just very briefly? There is a difference between equal and fairness. That's why they stagger the starting point in races, foot races, because the person who's on the inside track has less distance to travel, and so there's an offsetting of that. So equal is not always fair. When the government says equal is that the opposition may get to speak, but then before you go to the third party, you should come back to the government, that it should, because that's how we do a lot of our rotation, back this way. But the element of fairness is such that when the government gets the floor, oftentimes it's to move into camera. And since they always win that motion, that means the third party is denied any opportunity to have anything to say in public. And I hear what you're saying, Mr. Dreeshen, but you know, the world doesn't collapse when things are made public from this meeting. I mean, in camera is meant to be a tool to allow us to work together more congenially without the cameras, without worrying about saying something that's going to generate a headline. but it does not necessarily mean that things that would otherwise be said in public are damaging somehow, and therefore they need to be kept under wraps. So I hear the government, Mr. Cramp in particular, has emphasized this, going from the opposition, then before you go to the third party, go back to the government. But I don't see that as being fair. It may be equal in terms of the strength of the seats you have, but it's not fair. And remember, this is an oversight committee. And it's the opposition, quite frankly, who's usually the ones that are, being the aggressor, and the government's the ones that is often on the defensive. Well, not always. Sometimes the government will agree with things. But that's why I went that way. It was any particular fairness to the Liberals or any kind of game. It was a recognition that once the government got the floor, that could be the end of the meeting in public. So the official opposition would have got to say something, the government would have got to say something, but the third party got shut down. Now, maybe I'm overly sensitive to the concerns of the third and fourth party because I was over there for so long. I was the fourth party and I was the only one, and many of you remember. So I remember those slights, but I also remember how fair many previous chairs were. We know there's an exception. But prior to that, there was a real element of fairness, and I always appreciated that. It didn't deny the majority the right to make a decision. It didn't deny the government their rights, but it did make me feel like my presence at least mattered and that I had an opportunity to express a point of view from the fourth party. And so, Mr. Dreesen, with respect, that's why I do it. It's not a deliberate intent to favor the opposition over the government. I'm trying to provide an element of fairness in recognition of the overwhelming, omnipotent power that the government has once they have the floor, because they can guarantee any motion they move will carry. The opposition does not have that luxury. And the last thing I would say is, Public Accounts is not a committee where government members are usually feeling good all the time. It's a rough position to be in. It's an important role, but it's not an easy one. And so I can appreciate that from time to time you feel the pressure and feel the heat, but that is the nature of this committee. All right, I'll go on now to Madame Blanchette-Lamothe as a first-time speaker, and then over to Mr. Cramp for a second time. Madame.
Merci. Je serai très brève.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. I can't listen to Mr. Hayes without voicing my own reaction. Accusing the chairman of not being neutral in this situation, I think, is unacceptable. We have a chair here who has been saying that he is not uncomfortable with the way things have been going, and he has been saying this for a long time. So now you can't accuse him for making a partisan choice if he's giving voice to the opposition for an opportunity to voice their opinions. He has already drawn our attention to this problem. Now, if he hadn't, perhaps one could think otherwise. But we have a chair who's been trying to have this discussion on what would work for both sides. So I think Mr. Hayes' comments are unacceptable, and I'm really glad that we have finally an opportunity to discuss the way this committee is going to proceed in the future. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe just a few comments, and some of it from the benefit of hindsight. Like the Chair, I've sat in opposition on this committee. I've sat on this committee in a minority status, and I've sat, of course, on this committee now in a majority status. And one of the problems we have had, of course, is the fact that we do operate without a subcommittee. And there's pros and cons with all of that. My personal preference has been to see a subcommittee work very, very effectively and efficiently, and it really streamlines our work here and eliminates a lot of the problems that do come forward. The disturbing part of all of this, and I say this with all honesty, we started off this committee in a subcommittee, and though I may be taken to task for stating this, opposition filibustered a subcommittee moving forward. I can't believe it. We're trying to move issues forward to come to decisions, and we had complete blockage and obfuscation at the subcommittee, which basically renders the subcommittee useless. Disturbed me a great deal. Sitting there as a member on the subcommittee, trying to come to some form of agreement. Mr. Allen, I think, could well recognize my frustration at that point, because we had to move forward, and unfortunately, we were not able to move forward. And this was just not a occasion. And so I've never seen that in my years in Parliament, not being able to move forward in our capacity as a member of Parliament as subcommittee. But I don't know if it was a strategy, and I'm not going to suggest it was. If it was just individuals with a particular focus and a set of direction they wish to follow. But it's the first time in history that I have been in Parliament, and perhaps it has happened before, but I saw a subcommittee rendered useless, and I went, "Wow, this is tragic. We're gonna feel the implications of this down the road, and here we are now." And to benefit the state, like I support the government on this position. The government did not play a role in that. We did not play a role in blocking that subcommittee, and unfortunately, the opposition did and should take clear responsibility for that, and that's a fact. And so, moving forward, I was deeply discouraged. Now here we are, going through the same thing that, quite frankly, we could have handled, I think, effectively as subcommittee. But the purpose, of course, was to take any decisions or potential sensitivities or something where we could move and find the hair in between and say, no, we don't want to do that. We want everything just to be totally out of camera so we can make more political points. Well, once that happens, then you really start to lose the trust and the effectiveness of being able to work together. And so that's where this has all started. And I say that with all honesty. And now maybe just to respond to Mr. McKay's assertion, and I respect Mr. McKay's a member in good standing and long standing and with a solid reputation here on the Hill. The only thing I will suggest to Mr. McKay is on this issue of the priority of the F-35 study, you probably just weren't aware of how this has progressed. There were 6 chapters, and if the government wished to use the weight of the government majority, we did not have to study the F-35 first. We could have taken a priority of all of the others. We could be talking about the F-35 6 months from now instead of now. But it was the government initiative that recognized some realities and a consideration of opposition, and quite frankly, some government concerns that said, let's make this a priority. We totally agreed and moved forward and actually made the motion to advance the study and make it a clear priority. And I think that was done in good faith. Now, there might be some people even within the levels of government at different levels that might not have appreciated that. But the committee made that deliberation fairly and honestly, knowing that certainly I knew the opposition were not going to object to the study. But it was a clear statement of fact moving forward. So there was certainly no obfuscation on behalf of the government in moving forward of the F-35. So we have more than cooperated fully in moving this forward. And now, as far as when we generally we moved out of camera. The last time, as Mr. Allen said, well, we expected you to be in camera on this. Quite frankly, so did I, and my personal preference was to be in camera simply to maintain the consistency of our process. But there are a number of people who said, well, no, let's make an exception here to demonstrate good faith. Quite frankly, some people could misconstrue that as an opportunity to, quote, play to the media, per se. But let's just deal in good faith. Let's move forward. Let's see how it works. Can we effectively do this? And, of course, what happened right off the bat? Complete politicization of the process. Complete. We saw what happened at this committee. And so I don't have to remind my colleagues of what took place at this committee and how we became effectively neutered to the entire meeting. And we simply, once again, had another filibuster, and away we go again. And so we just were not effective. It didn't work. Unfortunately, I wished it had have worked. I would love to get back to just, if Mr. Ravenel and I have a difference of opinion, by golly, let's have it. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. We move forward. We have some different thoughts. We bring motions. But right now, we've moved this committee, regretfully, into a procedural process rather than an investigation of fact process. And it's to the detriment of Canadians, detriment, I think, of the parties involved at the committee level here. I'm disappointed, and I don't know how we're going to get over this, Chair. I really don't, because the genie's out of the bottle on this, and everybody wants to move forward for their own political purposes on this. The opposition simply just want to grab hold of the chain and keep on yanking it until there's no more life left in the chain. Understand that, and the government will obviously at some point want to say, well, fine, we have other business, let's move on. And I think we all recognize those realities. So I'm just suggesting to my colleagues, as we move forward, if we could all just take a little deeper breath on an issue like this, and when the floor is given, hopefully there's clear indication of why. If it's to go into a camera, obviously there's a reason for that. But I would hope once we are in camera, maybe discussion could take place as to why, and if at some particular point either government and or opposition have a great deal of difficulty with that, then let's see if we can talk our way through it and get it resolved. Chair, I would just deeply love this committee to get back on track. I really would, after 8 years of working with this committee, and certainly no reflection of the chair. As I mentioned, I believe your decision on this was wrong, but that's fine. That's just a difference of opinion, and we're entitled to that. But if I didn't say that, I wouldn't be honest with the chair. And so I would hope that we would move forward. I'm not going to belabor the point here now, but in denying the government in a opportunity in the chair's description of fairness, I think, quite frankly, isn't fair. To, as I made my comment earlier, to say to the government, well, that's fine because you have the majority. We'll listen to the opposition. We'll let them talk, and if they want to make a motion or the thing, and by the time it comes to you, we know you want to go in camera supposedly, so we're just going to hold you off. It really makes things a challenge for the effective operation of this committee. And the last point that I will make, Chair, I don't know what the precedent is for this, and the chair might be totally right in his statement. I don't know. But right off the bat, the chair said, well, obviously, though, but when you have the floor, there will be no motions. Okay. Is that the way it works? Does the chair have that latitude and luxury to say, if we have the floor, if I have the floor now, am I now prohibited from making a motion when I have the floor? I've never heard of that before, but if that is within the rights of the chair to dictate that, if the chair just did that for the simple matter of just trying to move this meeting forward and have a pre-meeting before the meeting so that it wouldn't complicate the situation, fine, I can appreciate that. But my concern, of course, is what kind of a precedence does that set as well, if it is a process that we follow, or is this an exception to the rule to sort of speed our process up here? I don't know, and if the chair could at some point, maybe not now because he might not have the answer, but I wouldn't mind some clarification on that, and it doesn't even have to be publicly, it can be privately. It's not my role to try to either put anybody on a spot here or make someone difficult. But I think we do have to have some clear rules moving forward, and I would certainly appreciate some clarification at an appropriate time on that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cramp. And let me just say, as the first vice chair of the committee, Mr. Cramp, you've always been right up front. You play hardball politics. That's why you've been returned so many times. But there's no question about your fairness and your integrity, and I take what you say seriously. And I appreciate the thought that you put into your comments, as tough as they are. We'll move along now. Oh, by the way, if I can, you were right on the second observation. I was trying to find something other than just boom, boom, boom. I mean, Canadians aren't comfortable with that, especially with this committee. If they get a sense that somebody's just driving things, dictating, whether they think it's me or the government or anybody, and so that's what I'm trying to avoid. And you're absolutely right. And I was taking a little bit of license with the chair, but I was, if somebody had called me called me on a point of order saying you can't give the floor to somebody and deny them the right to make a motion, then I would have had to make a ruling, and I probably would have had to say, you're right, and I won't do that. But I do have the right to put a suggestion out there, and then if no one does complain, then by inference, there has been a unanimous agreement to do that, and we move along. And I was doing it again as an interim step prior to that impossible situation where everybody wants the floor at once, but not everyone can get it. Let me offer again, especially based on the positive aspects, Mr. Cramp, of what you were saying. I offer again to representatives of each of the caucuses that I will gladly convene, publicly or privately, a meeting to kick around some ideas so that we can have a solution. I agree. The solution we have now doesn't work very good. But you will recall I said that from the beginning that it doesn't work. And no matter how I ruled and how I approached it, someone was going to be upset. And that was a given. I'd much rather be enforcing rules that everybody has agreed to. Makes my job a whole lot easier. It's when we get into this uncertain area, and yes, some of it is the lack of a steering committee. We won't get into the politics of why and what happened, but the absence of that steering committee, of an effective steering committee, does hurt the work of this committee. In the past, when we had that committee and it was functioning the way it should, we did work better. That doesn't mean we still didn't have our moments, but for the most part, it worked a lot more efficiently. We don't have that, that's the fact, and so that's partly also why we're sort of lurching around here without as clear a focus as I think everyone would like. Madame Bateman, first time speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to clarify a point or two that my colleagues have raised on both sides of the table. First, I heard Madame Blanchette-Lamotte use the word accusation in terms of my colleague Mr. Hayes' comments. I think that that word is a bit strong, because I heard a concern about the process being raised. So his comments were about process. They weren't an accusation. And I think that there has been a full discussion, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've also heard compliments being given on the part of Mr. Hayes with respect to your work. So I think we have to strike a balance. And I think we have to be careful in our use of words. Second, Mr. Chairman, I also heard that you had a concern about the third and last party and their ability to have the floor. However, it strikes me as a member of this committee, and as you know, Mr. Chairman, I am very proud to be a member of this committee, and I take it very seriously. I take our work very seriously. And so the third party has used up time in this committee, and perhaps you'll have to check this, check the time that the third party has used in your committee. And perhaps you'll have to see how much time has been used to obstruct the process, because there has been a lot of wasting of time with the comments. So there has been filibustering. But that's serious. And I think that has to be part of your considerations when it comes to the process that this committee will follow. Thank you.
greatly. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Unless there are other
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
that wants the floor, very well. I'll go to second-time speakers. Mr. Saxton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate that you've given just about everybody a chance to speak this morning for the first time to give their opinions on where we're at and where we're going. I'm not sure if we still know where we're at or where we're going, but at least we know you've given everybody a chance to ventilate. I certainly would like to know where we're going and where we're at. You've made a suggestion that because your ruling was unfair in a lot of people's eyes about relegating the government to third status on this committee when it comes to pecking order of who gets to speak first. That I think you've even recognized that's not fair. And so you want to resolve this in another forum, in another session, privately or publicly, whatever makes sense. So where are we going with that? Are we going to come to a conclusion? Because right now we're in a situation where for this meeting and the previous meeting, you have taken it upon yourself to unilaterally make a decision that the government will be relegated to third status when it comes to pecking order. This is the second time you've done that. I do recall last time you did that, you said something to the effect of this time you're doing it, but there's a chance that next time you'll allow the government to go first since you're allowing the opposition to go first this time. So I think you might have even brought up the option of alternating back and forth last time. I do understand your dilemma about which opposition party goes first, because then if it goes opposition government, then the third party wouldn't have their chance. But another option to that would be to alternate amongst the opposition parties and government goes second. So there's lots of possible permutations as to how we could resolve this as a committee. And we have to resolve it because the current situation is unacceptable. It's unacceptable to the government. You yourself have even said that you recognize that it's not necessarily fair as it stands to do this every time. You did it once last time, recognizing that it wasn't really fair. As my colleague had brought up, you recognized the third party, even though they didn't even attempt to be recognized. So I think that is also a kind of a strange and bizarre thing for a chair to do, is to recognize a party even though they didn't even attempt to be recognized. But nevertheless, look, we've got a problem. It has to be solved. The current status quo, which you've created, is not acceptable. So let's find a solution, and let's set up an alternate, another meeting, so that we can discuss this and come to a resolution, because as it stands right now, we're sort of in Never Never Land, and we can't stay in Never Never Land forever.
Thank you. No, I agree, although some would argue we do. Let me just say that for the record, I did ask that question, and I believe it is in Hansard that Mr. Burns said I did put up my hand, because I was checking that. Now, I did check that. I think that's on the hands because I was careful about that. However, I accept the fact that the government does not believe the current ruling is fair. Just like if I'd gone any other way, the opposition members would be saying that it's not fair. On balance, I'm comfortable that I made the right decision in the absence of any kind of agreement, given the fact that the opposition can only give voice when they have the floor. They can move a motion. They can't carry one. But I can appreciate the government sees that as totally unfair. You have the most seats and you're getting third place in the pecking order. How can that be fair?
In a row.
Twice in a row, and probably third and fourth and fifth time if we don't find a resolution. Because I think it's equally unfair for the government to get the floor as soon as the gavel's dropped, move into camera, and the cone of silence comes over everything automatically every time, 10 times out of 10. I don't think that's fair either. So I want to convene. I will take it a step further. I will invite representatives of each of the caucuses to meet with me on an informal basis to see if we can't come up with something, and maybe it will be as simple as rotation. And it'll just be the luck of the draw in terms of the politics that day, who gets the floor, but we can avoid this. What we need is an agreement, colleagues. An easy Solomon solution is not available. The best we're going to get is an agreement that we can all live with. That's what we should be shooting for. That's what I will convene a meeting with the purpose of trying to achieve a recommendation that we can all live with. I guarantee you it won't be fair, but by virtue of everybody buying into it, it will be deemed to be fair. And then we can avoid what has been, well over an hour now on procedure. So to get us going in a positive mode, does everybody agree with, are you agree with the intent of me to call a meeting and pull everybody together and see if there's a solution? Is there agreement on that?
No.
No. Okay, Mr. Cramp.
Chair, the longer we procrastinate, the longer we delay it, the longer we don't have a process, the longer we're going to be getting to a resolve. Why don't we do it now and get it over with? Let's have this done, then we can get on, do our meeting, whatever decisions are reached. I guess we're going to have to live with them right, wrong, or indifferent. But I would suggest, look, we've had a number of suggestions. You made a suggestion. Obviously, the opposition members have made a suggestion. The government, Mr. Saxton, has made a couple of different suggestions brought forward. Why don't we just see if we can we come to some kind of working agreement here where it's going to be fair?
If you'll allow me to continue to give people the floor without them moving motions, we can do that. But if we're going to get into motions, I tell you we're going to be bogged down for the balance of this meeting. And that was why the informal meeting, to kick it around. So if you're willing, if the committee is willing to enter into a give and take discussion with a sole purpose of not scoring points, not moving motions, but to find something we can all agree to, then that would be wonderful. I'd love to have that done. If you want to do it now, I'm in your hands. Mr. Cramp has suggested we do it now. What's the will of the committee? Let me go to Mr. McKay and then Mr. Saxton.
Thank you, Chair, and I certainly appreciate the expressions of concern for the fates of the Liberal Party. It's quite heartening to hear.
I did say the third party, but your point's taken.
Yes, yes. Well, as far as I know, the third party is the Liberal Party, yes. And the Liberal Party is the third party, and generally speaking, one refers to the party as by its name rather than by its status.
It just hurt to hear you say it that way. Your point's taken. I'll shut up. You have the floor.
I just wanted to point that out, but I do appreciate the expression of concern. And I also want to pick up on the comment about that the government is omnipotent at this committee. I don't dispute that. We certainly know that in the event that Mr. Saxton has his way, Mr. Burns' motion will never see the light of day. It may be omnipotent, but it's not omniscient. And that is the point of this committee. The point of this committee is to review government decisions. And while Mr. Cramp argues that, well, there's actually 6 things they could be doing, including border controls, interest-bearing debt, et cetera, it's clear that the F-35 issue is the first among equals, or way beyond the first among equals. Just to give listeners and viewers some scale, this is an order of magnitude. This decision is an order of magnitude that would, in Toronto, replace the entire subway system. That's what we've been arguing about in Toronto, that to update and replace the entire subway system. That's the order of magnitude of the F-35 costing. And so I'm actually quite open to alternate processes, et cetera, but from the viewpoint of the Liberal Party, to say that Mr. Burns' motion is automatically dead in the water if, in fact, we adopt an alternate process, I think is just a non-starter. So I'm certainly open to see how this would happen. I just also need to point out that what goes around comes around. I've been on that side as well. In fact, I think I've occupied every position all the way around this table over the course of being here for 14 years. And I remember when we were in government, Minister Martin used to say to me when he came before the Finance Committee that he wasn't actually afraid of what the opposition questions might be. He kind of reasonably anticipated. What he worried about was the government members' questions. Because for a whole variety of reasons, many of which you can do. And I point out that normally I sit on the Defence Committee, and and on that committee, when David Pratt was the chair, he issued a report, and this is when the Liberals were a majority, which was highly critical of the government. Highly critical of the government. Many of those things were ultimately adopted. Many of the recommendations were ultimately adopted by the government and have been subsequently carried on by this government. And you don't get that impression here that the government members actually are prepared to be critical, particularly in this F-35 debate. So, hence the reluctance of the Liberal Party in particular, but I dare say the NDP party as well, to allow Mr. Burns' motion and possibly others to go in camera, because, as you rightly say, the cone of silence will descend, and Mr. Burns' motion will never see the light of day. So, you know, discussions about whether it's the cost analysis of the F-18 or the phasing out of the F-18s or replacement of the F-18s or infrastructure modifications of the F-35s, all of that sort of stuff will not likely ever see the light of day, nor will the witness list that Mr. Burns proposed. So, you know, I'm quite interested in the wisdom of Solomon. I don't always see it here. I'm quite prepared to entertain any kind of process that allows Mr. Burns' motion to survive and to be fairly debated. And you know, I have really no observations with respect to the functioning of the committee, because I've not actually been here to see whether the committee, either in public or in camera, is functional or dysfunctional. So I can't make any observations with respect to the functionality, other than the generalized observation that a subcommittee is always preferable to a debate among 12 people as to what the agenda should be. So if you can point as chair to a means by which Mr. Burns' motion survives intact and gets a fair and full hearing, then I'm all ears.
I'm not sure that guarantee can be arrived at, but hope springs eternal. For the purpose of trying to move us along, the only obvious one to me, and I'll just throw this out there, is that we would actually do the rotation. So we would say, starting with X meeting, it's Mr. Saxton, that when we call an a committee business meeting, that it's understood that the chair will recognize in a preordained rotation the following members, and that will change each meeting. I don't even know, I mean, that's the only fair thing I can think of. And as I said, then everybody takes their lumps. So on a really high-profile meeting where the government would like to get in camera as quick as possible, they may be lucky, and today is the day that they get to lead off the floor, and they can move that motion and do it right away, or it may be bad luck, and it goes over to the opposition, and they have to wait to get the floor. I'm open to other ideas. That's the only one, and that's the major downside, is that the politics of how the day will unfold will be purely decided in many ways by who gets the floor first. But it would be fair. It would eliminate most of this, and I would at least have a set of rules to enforce that everybody's buying into. And by virtue of that, I have to deem that to be fair. So let me put that in front of you and ask the balance of the speakers to comment on that as to whether they like it or not. And of course, you have an opportunity to give us an even better idea, which I'd love to have if it's out there. I have a speakers list. Mr. Dreesen, so you're just putting up your hand now,
Yes.
Earl? Okay, so Mr. Dreesen here, and now over to Mr. Saxton. No, Mr. Saxton had the floor there. McKay, you want the floor again?
I just wanted to follow up on what you just said, because it was an interesting proposition that you had put forward. But would you do that similar to the speaking order that we have for witnesses, for example? Would you follow that order? Is that your proposal?
It wasn't. It could be. My proposal was more egalitarian than that. It was just you're first today, Mr. Allen is first next week, Mr. McKay is first the week after, and then we're back to you being first the week after that.
If we follow the speaking order, that might be something that we want to consider, and I invite my colleagues to...
So what you're suggesting is we would start with like you lead off, or at least your caucus has the first spot. So you would then we would just tick each of those off as a week. So
we just keep on going, and we just follow the speaking order.
Okay. Well, there's two suggestions that are on the floor. You still want the floor?
I just want to say that I'm happy to hear what my colleagues have to say on this matter, but I do want to point out that an important member of this committee is not here today, and that's Mr. Byrne. And so I would hesitate to come to any conclusion in his absence, because I know that he will have something to say. I presume he will have something to say on this subject. It's a reasonable presumption. So I certainly encourage my colleagues on the committee to voice their opinions. But I want to keep in mind that because Mr. Byrne's not here, I think we should not make a decision without Mr. Byrne.
Look, you two guys are making me crazy here. Mr. Cramp wants us to make a decision right now because he didn't want this to hang around any further, and you're just saying it's a great idea, we should come to an idea, but let's not make a decision today because we need to hear from Mr. Byrne. And the other thing I want to remind folks, as much fun as everyone may be having as we have this interesting discussion, we're rapidly running out of time to actually make some business decisions. So at the very least, and we've been here before, and this is why lack of long-range planning isn't good, but at the very least, I need some marching orders for Thursday. Otherwise, we don't have a meeting. So, with that, Mr. Cramp, you have the floor again, sir.
Can't make a motion.
Well, Chair, it certainly, without having the capacity as following the Chair's instruction to make a motion now, I won't. I wouldn't do that to the Chair based on a precondition that we both agreed to, and the word has to be your word. But what I will say is it looks like we have a difference of opinion here. And I think we're going to go round and round and round. And as hopeful as I was that we could just come to a very quick decision, I don't think it's a complex issue. No, I'll take that back. It's a very complex issue, but I think we only have 2 or 3 legitimate solutions that are in front of us. And I'm not seeing any real relative unanimity. And I do know, the Chair, that, and I appreciate Mr. McKay doing an admirable job, but I do know that if somehow I or we or the government were able to put a motion forward today to suggest a matter of going forward, well, the next 3 to 4 meetings we would just be simply wasting our time again, because I know I would have adequate comment from across in the third-party position. And so in the spirit of still trying to make this committee work, I'll certainly be more patient than my normal nature is. I'm all my life, as most of you know, I was in business, and if I get paid for wasting my time, I wouldn't have stayed in business. Unfortunately, it is disturbing that when we are here being paid by the tax-paying dollars and of hard-working people, and they see that we are just sort of in a bit of a straitjacket of paralysis of indecision, it's frustrating. And I would hope that at a subsequent meeting, then we can all have some adequate time for thought now, and recognizing the importance of moving forward, that we can have a number of informal discussions. And I would certainly hope Mr. McKay would also pass on those thoughts to Mr. Byrne.
He's watching.
And I wish him well, and I hope he is watching, and he will take our words to heart that we do need to move forward with this committee, and I'm hopeful then by the time we come back for the next session, Chair, that we've already either had a meeting before a meeting in order to come to a decision on this, and or we can debate this adequately and move forward so we can get on. We have to bring some closure to this at some point. Obviously, it's not going to be today, and I regret that, but I think it's an obvious fact just from hearing the first couple of speakers moving forward. There is some obvious differences of opinion. So others may wish to speak on this issue, or others may have some thoughts or concerns, but I'm willing to take another swallow of patience pills until we get to one more meeting. But at that particular point, I can assure you that my patience, like yours and many others, will be rather thin, because we do have to proceed. We have to get on, and if we could have just simply, as per thing, and I know I'm repeating myself here and then, but obviously we have always, with the exception of the last time when we felt it imperative to demonstrate the government's commitment to dealing with this issue on matters such as this, whether it's procedure, whatever, we have went in camera. And so I thought that might have been a slam dunk today, but I understand obviously Mr. McKay wished to make his point by bringing forward a motion and basically going on down the whole list of potential invitees that would obviously, many of them strongly opinionated with no direct I suppose action or attention from a direct involvement with the file, but obviously it would have made for good theatrics and good politics, and I think obviously that was the intent and is the intent, and perhaps were I sitting in his position, perhaps I would maybe even consider following a pattern such as that. But I can assure the member it's not going to make for an efficient operation of this committee. So that's all I have to say at this point, Chair.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Cramp. Monsieur Ravignon, you have the floor.
Well, I certainly agree with Mr. Cramp that there are better things we could be spending our time on presently than trying to get some process. I think that should be taken offline, and we should be talking informally before the next meeting. And that's precisely the point. I think Canadians want us to be discussing things of importance. They want us to be continuing the F-35 debate and hearing from other witnesses. They want to know what the consequences are of Bill C-38 on the roles and powers of the Auditor General. They also want us to debate other chapters of the Auditor General's report. These are things that this committee should be doing. And so I'm speaking in favor of perhaps let's go forward to try at least openly here to discuss what we'll do for our next meetings, and then take the discussion with regards to how this meeting should function offline with the chair.
Thank you. I have one last speaker, and then I'm going to make a couple of suggestions in terms of moving forward. Mr. Dreeshen, sir, you have the floor.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I'll go back to what I had mentioned earlier about the concept of rotation. If you look at this, the draft report that we have here, and you're going at each meeting that we're going to have, and we then start ending up with a game being played as to what are we going to put this date, because we know that the opposition is going to be able to start it. What are we going to be putting on the next date? You end up with the same type of theatrics that we're trying to deal with here. So I think a person's got to look at something a little bit more in depth rather than just what day is it going to be, because again, then we'll be back to this argument. So I think as we try to think of ways of putting it together and to come up with solutions, that we should be cognizant of that fact. So that's what I wanted to bring in.
Very good. Thank you, sir. That exhausts the speakers list. Colleagues, could I again, I'm going to try again. This is the fourth or fifth time. but I'll add a wrinkle. I'll invite all members to forward to my office any suggestions at all, even if you got a bad one. You want to throw it on there so that everything's being looked at. And then I am going to invite representatives from each of the caucuses to join me for a coffee to kick around what I have in front of me. Members can choose to attend or not. I'm going to make the attempt. In the absence of a process to lead to some kind of an agreement, we are going to keep repeating this time and time again. It's not healthy. It's not impressive. I'm sure there's a lot of Canadians at home now rolling their eyes going, really folks, that's the best you could come up with in terms of working together. So we'll continue to pursue it. For the time being, I mean, we could go through the whole political dance of in camera, but at 10:22, I'm not sure that makes a lot of practical sense. Could I ask, or could I suggest that someone provide me with a motion that next Thursday, this coming Thursday, that we invite the Auditor General? He does believe that he will be in a position where he can be here Thursday. Might I suggest that the motion would be that we invite the Auditor General for the first hour, which was the commitment we had made earlier, and that we then move into report writing. But further, that if it turns out the Auditor General can't attend on Thursday, then we would use the entire 2 hours for report writing. That's the bare minimum we need to achieve today, folks. We still have a whole lot of work that we didn't get any of it done. So, but at best, if we can get through with an agenda for Thursday, all is not lost. Mr. Saxton, are you going to help me out with such a motion?
Mr. Chair, I would like to follow your lead, and I would like to propose a motion that we invite the Auditor General to come on Thursday for the first hour, and that the second hour be report writing. And should the Auditor General not be able to join us on Thursday, that he join us on Tuesday for the first hour, and that the second hour be report writing. And should the Auditor General not be able to attend Thursday, that all of Thursday will be report writing.
Okay.
Or if he can't join us on Tuesday, all of Tuesday will be report writing.
What worries me is I followed that. So, okay. Okay, I see speakers to it. Did you wish to speak any further, Mr. Saxton?
I'm just putting my motion towards to the committee, and I hope that everybody will.
And let me be very, very clear. It would be my intent. I did say that I've never seen an exception to the report writing being in camera. I think that's about as close to a motherhood rule as we have. So unless I hear interventions to the contrary, it will be my intent to move us immediately. I will direct that we move directly into camera, either segueing from the Auditor General or from the beginning of Thursday's meeting all the way through. I want to be very clear on that. On the motion, I'll take speakers. Mr. McKay, Mr. Ravignon, and I saw somebody on the government side. No, you're good.
Just to second the motion, Chair, and also to say that I like my coffee double-double.
If that's all it took, I'll gladly buy double-double. I'll even add a little something if it'll get us through these darn meetings. Well, it couldn't get any worse. Monsieur Ravignon.
Don't have issues with the motion. I have a question about the report. So report writing on what?
Okay, no, fair question. Alex, what's the one that we have teed up?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The committee had considered a report on the Public Accounts of Canada 2011. Some changes were made. The committee had wanted to see those changes before adopting the report. So that's one thing for the committee. The other is the committee had done a study on Canada's Economic Action Plan, or the audit of that, and that draft is now available for the committee to consider.
And we would take it in that order.
Sorry, I was distracted.
That's fine. Alex, would you summarize that again quickly, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So the Public Accounts of Canada 2011, the changes have been tracked for the committee to consider, and then Canada's Economic Action Plan.
Okay. And given that I'm told that I may be substituting for Mr. Byrne again, could I get some background or filler or some material from the clerk so that I can make a useful contribution, please?
I can't guarantee the last part, but we can guarantee the material, sir.
I'll guarantee the last part if
there
you
you
guarantee
go.
the first part.
There's a perfect partnership.
Yeah.
Okay. Monsieur Ravignon, you have the floor.
Yeah, I would assume that we would also have time to discuss committee business at that meeting as well, right?
Well, now you've touched on something.
Well, we do have to plan for the next meeting. This is a very the motion only deals with the.
Well, here's where it gets a little tricky, colleagues. I don't want to split hairs, but I did make it. I went out of my way to say that I was removing any question of whether it was public or in camera, and if somebody has a problem with it being in camera, I will take the responsibility and explain what is the practice of this committee, and I'm very comfortable to do that. However, given the debate we just had about whether committee business should be in public or in private, to now deem that we're going to do committee business in a meeting that the chair, I hate talking to myself in the third person, but that I have directed us into is just somewhat problematic, because it brings us back to that question of, does the committee want to do committee business in public or in camera? Given that if I call a meeting for committee business, it's my ruling that we de facto start in public and only go in camera on motion. So therefore, that piece would have been eliminated. So that's my concerns. Your thoughts?
So you're just suggesting that we then do committee business on Tuesday then? Because at some point we're going to have to address what we do in the future. So
yes, either that or like we have a bit of a backup plan on Tuesday. The other thing we could do right now that would be very positive, colleagues, is to reschedule the meeting that we deferred where we had everybody ready to go. What was the chapter, clerk? Yes, maintaining and repairing military vehicles. If you recall, we had that teed up, ready to go. We made a change when we brought in the Auditor General for a full session, which was much appreciated. But it's hanging out there. If we could slide that in for next Tuesday, that would allow us to have a backup plan if the AG can't make it on Thursday. But if he does make it on Thursday, it allows us to finish up our work on Thursday and have a game plan for the following Tuesday in one neat move. So that I put to colleagues, that would be the easiest thing to do. That hearing has to happen. We've postponed it. It's from the last fall report, I believe. So again, we're getting a little bit behind on there. So that kind of a motion, an amendment to the motion, would really give us a nice sense of where we're going to be for at least the next two meetings. You still have the floor, sir.
Could I suggest that since we're going to have this, well, I would assume we're going to have this this meeting on process and on the way the committee can go forward in a more positive way to discuss business, that we hold off on deciding what Tuesday is in a hope that this meeting with you and with our other colleagues, more informal meeting, will bear fruit.
That will not give us an agenda for Tuesday. And if I might, colleagues, just to complicate our lives, I'm reminded by staff that we have to do the estimates, and we have until May 30th. We need to have the AG. We haven't had that hearing yet, and the only week the AG is available prior to the drop-dead deadline is next week. So again, it sounds like either next Tuesday or next Thursday, we better plan the public accounts hearing on estimates, or we're not going to have it. And I don't think committee wants to miss that piece of business. So that would be best if we could schedule that on Thursday. And then we're somewhat flexible on Tuesday. Even if we didn't go with the report, the Chapter 5, we could build in report writing because we don't know. We wanted to leave that date of flexible in case the AG couldn't make it on Thursday. So that's sort of where we are. So the thought would be this. The motion, AG, first hour on Thursday, second hour report writing. If the AG can't make it that day, we bounce it over to Tuesday, May the 15th, and then the second half of that meeting would be report writing. But let's deem that if the AG does come on the 10th, the 15th will be all report writing, but let's schedule the estimates hearing for the 17th. Mr. McKay.
Just out of curiosity, could you do the second hour with the AG next Thursday as estimates? This Thursday coming.
Oh, the only downside is that with health, and because it was like fairly recent, I think Mr. Ferguson, I really believe, is doing everything he can to accommodate the timeline wishes of this committee. But thank you, Mr. Shipley. But my concern would be that if he couldn't make it on Thursday, then we would have the backup on Tuesday. If we built in the estimates, we're hardening up the meeting and leaving less flexibility.
Then the other alternative is, if you don't want to waste your Thursday, is you do your report writing on Thursday and schedule the AG for next Tuesday, week today, first hour F-35, second hour estimates. That way you're starting to move through your agenda.
Well, you know what? The other thing we could do, again, just working this through, colleagues, we don't have to have the AG on Thursday. I mean, if the committee feels that they'd rather have an agenda with some certainty, and they're okay just waiting a few days, then we could have the AG, as part of what Mr. McKay suggested, just directly. This Thursday would be report writing. The 15th would be the first hour F-35s, the second hour estimates, and then the 17th would be a nice slot to do Chapter 5, but the 17th remains open. I kind of like that better, actually. But the trade-off for the committee is that you wouldn't have the AG this week on F-35s. You wouldn't have him until next Tuesday. That's the only trade-off. But the positive thing is it gives us more certainty. There's a far greater likelihood that Mr. Ferguson will be back up to speed and ready to come on Tuesday rather than Thursday being a little, and pushing him. I mean, I'd like to give him a little time if we could. So I think that's a good suggestion. Could people comment on that suggestion first, please, Mr. Revenue?
Yeah, I like that suggestion. I think that stabilizes what we're doing, and it ensures that the Auditor General can be here. We don't know what the nature is of his medical condition, so I think Tuesday is a good bet.
Yeah. Thank you. Further? Mr. Saxton?
Chair, I think my motion adequately addresses the concerns of the committee that have been voiced by Mr. McKay and others. I would say that we should still stick with my motion as it reads, because it does offer the flexibility that if the Auditor General is not available this Thursday, then he can come on Tuesday. It offers that flexibility, which is exactly what we're trying to achieve here. So I would recommend we just stick with my motion as it was presented.
I do remind colleagues that we have the 15th, the 10th, the 15th, and the 17th to do estimates. If we don't hold a hearing on estimates in one of those three slots, it doesn't get done.
Mr. Chair.
We have 10 minutes, I remind colleagues. Mr. Thibault, welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. So in trying to understand the whole process here and what we're trying to accomplish with the 10th, the 15th, and the 17th, we need to have a meeting of the estimates before the end of May. Is that correct? Did I understand that correctly?
Correct. And the Auditor General is not available the week of the 29th.
Okay. So then we have next week to ensure that we have a meeting on the estimates.
We have those 3 days. This coming Thursday and Tuesday, Thursday next week, yes.
And we have no idea. We all wish the Auditor General well, but we have no idea if he's available this Thursday or not.
The information I'm receiving, and if there's an update, I'll gladly take it, but the information I received was that Mr. Ferguson thought that he would be sufficiently recovered to be here on Thursday. I'm the one that's suggesting, look, I mean, health things, you never know, and I was just trying to provide a little bit of a backup, rather than have him cancel at the last minute, or worse yet, come when he wasn't fully recuperated because he felt a sense of commitment. And I do get a sense that that's the kind of person he is.
Yeah, and so the motion right now is saying for the Auditor General to come Thursday, then we're going to ask him to come again next week for the estimates.
Yes.
So it just makes sense to me to have the Auditor General here one day, and that my suggestion would be to make it Tuesday. Have him do the first hour of the F-35s, the second hour on the estimates. We've killed two birds with one stone. We get the report writing in. I think that works. I actually agree with the colleagues, and we would do that on Tuesday.
Very good, thank you. And something else comes to mind, too, is that if we do it that way, colleagues, what we would be doing is, I'm going to wait till I have the attention of the two government leads. Guys, if we did the Auditor General one day, first hour F-35s, second hour estimates, we'd be truncating the estimates meeting. Normally it's a full 2-hour meeting. My personal sense from the committee was that we could probably do estimates in 1 hour. So if we did schedule Tuesday firm for both F-35 1 hour and then estimates the second hour, we'd have accomplished both, and we would have met the deadline, and we would have a game plan. And we could do report writing on Thursday. This Thursday. So, and I'm just throwing this out there, Mr. Saxton, your motion still has precedence. However, notwithstanding that, let me just say that the suggestion is that we do this Thursday report writing, and again, as I have said, that would be a scheduled in-camera meeting on my authority and my responsibility. Then the following Tuesday, we would have the Auditor General in the first hour, F-35, second hour estimates, and then we can still decide what we want to do with the 17th, and we can do that either now or on the meeting of the 15th. It provides us with certainty, Mr. Saxton. So again, this Thursday would be report writing. Next Tuesday, first hour F-35 with the Auditor General, second hour estimates. We've actually saved ourselves an extra hour on the estimates, because normally it's 2 hours, plus we would have met the deadline. I would not be impressed with our work if we did not meet a deadline like that. And we've had this in front of us for a number of months now, colleagues, so it would just be a sign of bad management, quite frankly, if we weren't able to organize ourselves in such a way that we could do this in a timely fashion. I guess I'm looking to the government. The government has the priority motion on the floor. But with that in mind, Mr. Cramp?
Just a thought. Certainly not speaking to Mr. Saxton's motion. But the only concern, I just don't want to get waylaid. If we have the Auditor General here for the first hour, and we are scheduled to do estimates for the second hour. I have some personal thoughts on that, but I'll throw that aside right now. We need to have some kind of assurance that we're going to get to the estimates, because I can just see motions coming on the floor at some point during the F-35, and we're going to end up in another situation again. So somehow the chair is going to have to ensure or find some way to clear the air so that we are not going to get caught up in, once again, procedure and discussion and politicization of the event.
We've got like 5 minutes left. I just want to be sure. Your concern is that we may get into motions on Tuesday in the first hour that would then bump the second hour?
That's my concern.
No. I'm looking for an agreement, and short of a majority or unanimous decision of the committee to change that, that would be the order of the day, and I would enforce it given the trouble we had getting there. So that would be ideally my understanding, is that I would not allow anything that would prohibit the committee moving after the first hour from F-35 to estimates. Mr. McKay. Briefly, folks, we've got 5 minutes.
I think it's a great idea. I just wish I'd thought of it. No, I think that the anticipation is that you would have a full meeting, that there probably wouldn't be any motions, et cetera, et cetera. Sorry.
Can I get a similar commitment from the official opposition?
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I agree with Mr. Cramp's sentiment on that. Besides, I think the full hour should be dedicated to asking questions to the Auditor General. So, I mean, that's what our major concern is with this. So,
very good.
That's fair.
Okay, I think we're close. So, Mr. Saxton, would you be good enough to withdraw your motion? Mr. Saxton, well, let me put it all out there. If you'd be willing to withdraw your motion, we would have another motion in front of the committee a la Mr. McKay, that this Thursday would be report writing, next Tuesday would be Auditor General, first hour F-35, second hour estimates, and the chair would guarantee that we would move from F-35s after the first hour to estimates in the second hour. And, well, right now we haven't talked about the Thursday after. So that's what's before us right now, is report writing, AG, 1 hour, and 1 hour. But I would need you to withdraw your motion, and then I would accept a second one.
Mr. Chair, I don't think it's a matter of me withdrawing my motion. I think a friendly amendment to my motion could also satisfy
if you're feeling that friendly, by all means, we've got 3 minutes.
Well, the proposition then is that my motion be amended on a friendly basis so that this Thursday will be report writing. Next Tuesday will be the Auditor General. The first hour, F-35s, the second hour estimates. And do we have an assurance from the chair that the second hour will indeed be estimates and will not wander back to the subject of the first hour?
Yes, you do.
Okay. And then for Thursday of next week, that is also report writing?
Or Chapter 5 that that's floating out there, either one.
Which is the Chapter 5?
That was the one that we moved so that we can meet with the AG. Chapter 5, maintaining and repairing military equipment.
Yeah, okay. I mean, eventually we need to deal with everything that's been put off as a result of this.
Bit of work, so we don't lack for things to do.
But we also have a lot more reports to complete.
Well, that's Alex. We have those two. Are there any others that are ready or could be circulated and would be deemed to be ready?
Regulating pharmaceutical drugs is in translation, be ready any day. Just don't want to promise it for Thursday. So next week,
no, but you could promise it the following Thursday?
Absolutely.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we had enough work to do. So we could do report writing on the 17th also if you wish.
Well, we've got Public Accounts of Canada 2011 we could also complete.
Status on that, Alex?
Yeah, just as I was saying earlier, that has been before the committee. That's been black line changes for the committee to consider again.
Sorry. Okay, so that's committee work. So we've already got it in hand. So there's that report. There's the public accounts report, and there's another one in translation that would be ready too.
As Economic Action Plan?
That's it. Right. So that's what would be available to work on this Thursday and next Thursday. And quite frankly, if we could clean up 3 reports in 2 writing days, we've done pretty good. So, again, to push a little further, so what could be in front of us is report writing on Thursday all day, next Tuesday, AG, first hour, second hour, and the following Thursday, report writing.
Yes.
That could work too. Mr. McKay.
I have no objections to whether it's amendment or a new motion or et cetera, but I faintly detected Mr. Saxton expanding Mr. Cramp's issue. Mr. Cramp, as I heard him speak, was concerned about motions being entertained by the chair. You said the chair wouldn't entertain motions. I then heard Mr. Saxton say, well, you know, F-35 stuff, in effect, wandering into main estimates. I don't think you can actually restrict questions that members might wish to ask. So I didn't. I just want to, as a point of clarification, so that you're not put in an awkward position. I agree with Mr. Cramp. I'm not quite sure that Mr. Saxton
I hear your point. I hear your point, and that was not the intention. Questions that are legitimate and germane to the estimates that happen to relate to F-35 are absolutely fair game. What I would not allow is anyone, you or anyone else, to move a motion next Tuesday that would prohibit us from moving to estimates by virtue of using the second hour for F-35 only. That's what I'm saying as part of this agreement I will not allow. Beyond that is the usual rules and the usual questions. Yep.
We're going to be able to get this accomplished today. I think we better just go and vote on my first motion.
Let's go.
And no amendment, just the motion as it is. And let's just vote on it.
We're very close. Please, Mr. Saxton.
I don't think we are, actually.
Well, I think, but let me try once more. Let me try the House once more. this Thursday, and there's two versions. There can be a short version and a long version. The short version is this Tuesday report writing, or pardon me, this Thursday report writing. Next Tuesday, Auditor General, first hour F-35, second hour would be the estimates, and the following Thursday, the 10th, would be report writing. If you don't want to commit to the 10th, then at the very least, let's make a decision for this Thursday and next Tuesday, and I think there is agreement on that. Does anybody disagree with that? So, Mr. Saxton, I think I've got agreement if you would stay with the compromise motion. Your friendly motion, if I might acknowledge.
Mr. Chair, it doesn't adequately address my concerns, the amendment to my motion. I agree with you. We should definitely have something on the table for this Thursday and hopefully for next Tuesday as well. And my motion does take care of this Thursday and next Tuesday. So I would propose that we just carry on this Thursday report writing. Next Tuesday we have the AG for the first hour on the F-35s, and we just pass that right now. And
what about the second hour of next Tuesday?
That wasn't part of my motion, was it? I mean, it was a report.
Is there some reason? Help me out. Why not? Why wouldn't we do it?
Report writing, wasn't it?
Why would we not do it?
Well, I put a motion before the committee, and I'd be happy
but if
to
you
vote
want,
on that motion.
come on now. We haven't been playing, splitting hairs on motions. We're trying to find an agreement. All right, let me see if I get a bare minimum agreement. Good gracious. People are not impressed with this. I know I sure as hell am not. Okay, Thursday. Would please pay attention. Government members, please pay attention. Sure, let's take all the time in the world.
Mr. Chair, it's 10:47. I'm moving. I think we should move to adjourn.
Please don't do that. We have no meeting on Thursday if you do that.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Sachs.
Thank you.
I just moved to adjourn.
I was hoping you wouldn't push that. Please, you personally will stop us from being able to make a decision about what we do on Thursday if you do this.
They're already stopping us to make a decision on that.
No, sir, they are not. If you do this, you will be doing it. If you want to wear that on your shoulders, you have every right. I recommend strongly you withdraw that motion, but you have the right to place it.
Is there any compromise on the Conservative side?
I'm about to find that out. Mr. Saxton.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, my motion was to have the AG come either this Thursday or next Tuesday, depending on his health. And so the friendly amendment, from what I understand, is that it would be definitely not this Thursday. It would be next Tuesday for the first hour to talk on F-35s.
Then what do we do the second hour?
And this Thursday will be report writing.
Okay, but fair enough. Report writing this Thursday. I think we're agreed on that one. Are we okay on that part of the formula?
So why don't we
that's a given. So now we're on Tuesday, and we can even agree on the first hour. So where are we on the second hour?
So why don't we then defer that till this Thursday, and we'll make a motion on Thursday to deal with the second hour on Tuesday?
I'd rather make a decision now. I got to tell you, report writing or estimates, I don't care. But let's decide now what to do with that last hour, so the next 2 days are planned.
Okay, let's have this Thursday report writing, the first hour of next week with the AG on F-35s and the second hour on estimates.
Okay, thank you. I think on that, I'll deem that to be moved, only if necessary, colleagues. Is there any debate?
That's fine with us.
You're okay with that, Mr.
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate your understanding.
I also recognize the compromise that has been made.
Great. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your cooperation, too. With that, colleagues, we're going to take a vote. All in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hand. Down. Anyone opposed? That motion's carried unanimously. Further to that, this meeting now stands adjourned.